Hello! Today I'm showing y'all how to make this bandana. It's filet crochet. It's my pattern that I made with my two best friends. It's super easy. So let me show you how I did this.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to be using is this grid chart that I made. Go ahead and screenshot it right here so that you can reference this for your whole project. We have 70 rows, and it's 70 rows wide and 70 rows tall. And then I'm also using this Vineyard Silk Classic yarn. I used it, there was a merino wool one, but the black project was silk. Super thin. If you want to size up your project, you can use a larger size yarn. I used a 2mm hook, so if you want it to be a little bit bigger, you could size up on this as well. Now we're going to be doing our starting chain. For filet crochet, you're always going to double whatever the width is. So we have 70 boxes, so you're going to be chaining 140 for your starting chain. It's also super important to chain loosely, because if you do it too tight, then your entire project will kind of have an arc shape. So go ahead and start doing your chain of 140. It's going to be kind of tricky at first because it's such a small hook, but you get the hang of it after a little bit. And you're just going to go ahead and do your 140 chains, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so we now have our 140 starting chain. Nice long guy here. Because we have 70 boxes, we want to go ahead and make our first box where the last chain is. So what I usually do is I just pinch my thumb on that last chain, and then we're going to chain 6 from there, because that's 2 chains for the bottom, 2 chains for the side, and then 2 chains for the top of the first box. And then you are going to go ahead and do your double crochet into where you pinched off that last stitch. So just double crochet into the top part of the starting chain, and that is what is going to form our first box. And then to continue to do our boxes all the way down the starting chain, you're going to chain 2 and then double crochet in the second chain from your last double crochet. So you're just skipping a stitch every time basically. And you'll just do that all the way down the row with every other chain. So again, chain 2. And then go ahead and do your double crochet 2 stitches away. So skip 1 and then double crochet into that second one. And you're going to do this all the way down, and I'll meet you right before the last box because we are going to be doing something a little different with that one. So you should have 69 boxes by the end of this section, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so now we should have our 69 boxes for the first row. It's going to be nice and long. It should look like this. And then you should have at the end 2 chains left to do our last box. We are doing something different here because it's going to be on an angle. Let me show you on the graph. So we're on this other edge, so you want it to be a little triangle at the end there because we're going to start decreasing the number of rows or of chains in the rows. So to do that, instead of doing our chain 2 and then our double crochet into the end, we're just going to do a treble crochet directly into that last chain. We're not going to chain 2 at all or chain 1, just treble crochet into that last stitch. And then as you can see, it forms that triangle at the edge there. Then instead of doing what we would normally do to make the box, we're gonna chain 3. You would normally chain 4 to do the box. Chain 3, and then you're gonna double crochet into that next intersecting double crochet from the previous row. So it's kind of where the border of your box is. That's what you're doing your double crochet into. And that forms those 2 triangle shapes that we need at the end. Okay, so now I'm showing you where we are on the chart. We have 4 open boxes that we're gonna do before our first filled boxes, because we're on row 2 there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll show you how to do those 2 filled boxes in a second. But for right now, we are just gonna go ahead and do those 4 boxes I'm showing you here on the chain. So we're gonna chain 2 and then do our double crochet, and it's gonna be in that same intersection that we just did for the triangle one. And just do our double crochet into there. It's pretty similar to what you were doing for the start or for row 1. But you're just doing it in the double crochet intersection from the previous row. So again, you'll just chain 2 and then double crochet. And I do it through both loops because it gives it more of that clean look. Chain 2 and then double crochet into the intersection. Okay, so now we are going to be doing our first set of those filled boxes here, and there's going to be 2 of them. Normally to do a filled box, you're going to do 4 double crochets total. You'll do 2 in the middle part of the box and then 1 in each intersection. That forms the filled box. So let me show you that real quick. So we already have our first one because we did our intersection from the previous box. And then we're doing a double crochet directly into that box below. So under the whole chains from the previous row, doing that twice. And then I'm gonna do a double crochet into that next intersection. So that gives us 4 double crochets in a row, and it has that filled box there. And then we're gonna do the same thing in the next box. So you'll do a double crochet directly under both of those loops from the previous row, and then another double crochet directly into that hole below. And then we'll do our third one in that intersection, which makes 4 total because we're using the double crochet from the previous box. And this gives us our 2 filled boxes. That's the first part of the dark squares on your graph. It's going to be 7 chains total. Or I'm sorry, 7 double crochets total. Okay, so now we're just going to follow that same pattern for row 2 all the way down. And again, we just finished these 2 boxes here. And then I'm going to go ahead and meet you down here at the end of row 2. Okay, so now I am meeting you again, these last 2 boxes of our row. So I'm just going to show you how to fill those boxes again. So we're doing our double crochet under both chains from the previous row's box. Another double crochet, and then a double crochet into last row's double crochet. So that's 1 filled box. Same thing again, we'll do our double crochet into the next box. And another one, so that's 2 in the middle. and then one in that intersection. So that gives us our 2 filled boxes, 4 double crochets for each box. All right, so now we're in the last box of row 2. I'm going to show you how to form your last box because it's different from the angled row on the other side. So you're going to chain 2 again, and this time you're going to do your double crochet in the second chain. There should be 4 there from the previous row. So you're just going to back yourself up 2 chains, and then you loop your hook through the back post, which it'll naturally kind of be turned that way anyway. And you will do your double crochet in the back post of the second chain from the previous row. And that's what gives you that box at the end. All right, so now we're on row 3. We're gonna make our box, which is a chain 4. You've got 2 chains for the side and 2 chains for the top. So chain 4 and then double crochet into that first intersection. And that will give us our box. If you remember on the other side, we only chained 3 to make the triangle. This one will be the full box. It's gonna look kind of wonky because it's on the end. But when you go into the next rows, it'll kind of straighten it out. I also want to point out now that we're on row 3 that we're gonna start reading the graph left to right instead of right to left. So for row 3, we started with this box side, and then we're gonna be following the graph all the way down left to right. And then when you start on a row that has the triangle side, you'll be reading it right to left. So just make sure you're paying attention to which way you're supposed to be looking at it. But we are now on row 3. I'm gonna show you how to fill or how to do these open boxes above 2 filled boxes because we haven't done that yet. So you are going to chain 2, and then you have to look at where, oops, I messed up. So you'll chain 2, and then you have to look at the previous row, and you're gonna skip 2 of those double crochets from the previous row and then do your double crochet in the 3rd stitch. So skip 2 and then do double crochet in the 3rd, and that will give you your open box again. As you can see here, same thing again because there were 2 of these in a row. You'll chain 2, skip 2 of the boxes or 2 of the chains from below, and then double crochet into that 3rd chain. And that gives us those 2 open boxes above the filled ones. So now go ahead and continue with this row, and I'm going to meet you right here where there's this filled box above a filled box for row 3. So pause and finish till you get to that point. I just want to show you how we do 2 filled boxes on top of each other. So instead of doing your chain 2 and then double crochet, you are just going to be doing double crochets into each of the stitches from the previous row. So you'll just double crochet into each intersection. And again, make sure you're doing it under both loops because that makes it look more filled and you'll be able to see the pattern better at the end. So I've done 2 double crochets for the middle part of the box, and then the 3rd double crochet in that intersection. And that gives us 2 filled boxes stacked on top of each other. And that is pretty much all you need to finish the project. I'm going to show you one more time how to do that angled box at the end of row 3. But if you feel good, you can just go ahead and follow the pattern. I've showed you everything that you're going to need to do it. But otherwise, I'm just finishing up row 3 by doing a couple more of those open boxes at the end of the row. So I'm chaining 2, double crochet in the intersection, chain 2 again, double crochet in the intersection. And now you are going to do your treble crochet in the box before the angled box from below, because you want to be decreasing the number of chains in each row, and that'll give us this angle. So you kind of have to stretch it out and see where the triangle is from the previous row. And then you'll chain 3 and turn your work for the next row and do your double crochet in the next intersection. And that gives us that angle so that it'll make the triangle shape for the whole bandana. So now we are at the beginning of row 4. And again, we're going to be reading the chart right to left now. All right, we are now at the end of row 4. I'm going to show you one more time how to do that box at the end. So we've chained 2, and now we are double crocheting into that second loop from your last double crochet. So it'll be right in the middle of your 4 chain intersection from the previous row. Doing my double crochet there. And then I'm chaining 4 for row 5, the first box of row 5. I'm turning my work and I'm doing my double crochet in that first intersection to make the first box of row 5. And here we have it. This is what should look like now that we have our 4 completed rows. That's basically all you're doing for the rest of the project. If it's easier, the odd rows you're going to be reading left to right, and the even rows you'll be reading right to left. So that's the most confusing part of the whole process. And then the black squares are your filled boxes, white squares are empty. So go ahead and finish the rest of the project, and I'll meet you back here so we can go over blocking at the end.
Okay, now that we have the finished piece here, it's not going to be a perfect triangle, so we have to block it. And since this is pure silk, be very careful. So the starting edge is the longer one, and then this is the edge we kind of want to stretch out. So I already did a round of blocking, but I'm gonna avoid this area now so I can just stretch this area, and silk can be very stretchy. So this should be okay. Make sure that's on. Should be okay as long as we consolidate, but I just take a spray bottle. I don't ever like drench it or, soak it underwater. Just kind of spray and stretch. I'm kind of just focusing on that shorter edge in this area over here. You just kind of keep playing with it until you have the flower in the middle to be more centered.